Hey guys, welcome to the first video on this channel, Coding Casserole. And in this series, we are going to cover interview coding questions that you will get for entry level or maybe second level software engineering jobs. And actually, in this video, we are going to be going over a problem of the beginner difficulty, mostly as I practice talking to the camera and getting the environment set up. So our question here is write a function to solve for the factorial of a number given an input. And over on the right here, we have our general steps for any coding question. So the first thing we're going to want to do when asked the question is see if we can find a pattern, come up with a solution that fits this pattern, either based off of previous experience or critical thinking or some combination of the two. We're going to write the code, and then we want to review our solution and improve upon the solution we wrote. And these steps 4 and 5 here are really critical when you're doing interview questions. Being able to look back at the answer you gave and reflect on it in an interview will really help you set yourself apart when it comes time for answering the questions. So again, here we have this question, which is write a function to solve for the factorial of a given input. And for those of you who don't know what a factorial is, when say you have 5 factorial, it's usually denoted with 5 exclamation point. And what that translates to here, let me go ahead actually and move this bucket so we can still see the question. So 5 factorial translates to 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And in the same way, when you have 3 factorial, that translates over to 3 times 2 times 1. So as you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory with smaller numbers, but when you get to bigger numbers, maybe like say 124, and you have factorial, it quickly becomes a pain to try and write this all out, as you could see here. So the pattern in these solutions is that you start with the number and then you walk backwards with each, previous number or number before it. And since you know that, you can also do the opposite because 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is the same as 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. And as saying that out loud, as you practice these, you'll notice that basically all this is asking is for a for loop. A for loop walks through or does a set of computations multiple times. And so that's exactly what we're going to want to use here. And we are going to solve this with Python, and I will cut over there. If you want, there will be a link in the description below. You can pull from the repository. There will be a already solved version of this, as well as a test function and a skeleton function. So you can go in, fill in the skeleton function, and then run the test against it and see if you can solve it yourself. Otherwise, hop over to the next part of this. Hey guys, like I said, as that last video section was wrapping up, we have the skeleton function right here, factorials.py, which is ready for you to fill in right now. It'll take the input in, and it will you need to fill it out, so it will return the factorial of that given input. So if you want to go ahead and pause this video and do that now. Okay, and then we have the already solved version, which you can look back on, factorials underscore solve.py. And then once you have finished factorials.py, go ahead and you can test it with this little test case. So this will test against some input. Obviously, our factorials.py right now is blank, so it will not pass the edge cases. But let's go ahead and fill it out together, and then we can run it against the test cases. So we're going to be using Python, as you can tell from the .py extension. This is a great language to learn if you're in the middle of interview gauntlets, as most companies do offer their interviews in Python. So we're going to go ahead, and this is the screen you should see the first time you open up the skeleton function. So as you remember when we were talking about earlier, the pattern that we saw when you have a number such as 3 factorial is you actually can just walk up as well. So 1 times 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2 times 1. And because of this, for loops will most likely be the most efficient answer for us. So to do a for loop in Python, we can use the range function. So saying for x in range of 1 to n plus 1. And the reason we do n plus 1 is the way range functionality works in Python is that it actually does not go to all the way the number. So if you just type in, for example, the range of 5, this would give you the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because indexing starts at 0. So if you go from the range of 1 to 5, that is going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4. And so to solve for all the numbers that we want in this for loop, we actually need to do n plus 1. So 1 to 5 plus 1, if our input was 5, would give us all the numbers we want, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that is just a little thing to know about the range functionality. So right here we are going to want to say our product is equal to product times x. And we need to go ahead and define up here, before we even start, that product is equal to 1. So the first time this walks through, you're going to have 1 is equal to 1 times 1, which is 1. And then the next time you walk through, you're going to have 1 is equal to 1 times 2, which is then going to give you 2 is equal to 2 times 3, and so forth and so on. So it's exactly what we want here. And then we are going to want to return product. And let's see here. So you may think that this is all you need to do, but again, remember steps 4 and 5 from the previous section, where reviewing your code and updating your code after you review it is really going to help you nail the last bit here. So one thing about factorials that's kind of a weird math got you is that the factorial for 0 and the factorial for 1 are actually 1. So, and the other got you is that there are no factorials for negative numbers. So the first thing we want to actually do is check to see if n is a negative number. So if n is a negative number, we're going to want to print a simple message here, something like, factorials do not exist for negative numbers. And then we're going to want to return -1, which is just our way of saying, your input was invalid. And then we might need to also check to see if the input was 0 or if it was 1. Either way here, we can go ahead and return 1. And then finally, if neither of those, then we can do the final statement here, which is going to be this function. So now, when we've gone ahead and filled in these little edge cases, such as when the input is negative, or if it's 0 or 1, we have everything we should need here to try it against our test case. So let's go ahead and run it against, and there you go. So these are all the numbers it's tested against, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Again, just a simple for loop walking through the numbers. And thanks for watching the first video. If there is a question you want to see or something you thought could be improved on this video, please feel free to drop a comment and let me know, and I will make sure to cover that in the next video. Thanks guys, and appreciate you watching.